Do you have a brilliant startup idea but are stuck in the launching phase? Are you feeling overwhelmed by funding, marketing, or just where to start? Don't let your startup idea stay grounded. Visit our website at eapla.com to schedule a Blue Couch meeting and launch your startup journey today.
All right, welcome back to On the Cusp. Matt Snyder's back with me from this episode. So who's our guest today, Matt?
Well, we have Justin Sevier from Vintage Homes and VAS Construction. Justin has built a lot of houses and a lot of construction, a lot of important construction in our area. We wanted to bring him in here and see, what is the industry like? What is going on in Shreveport? And, give us the real estate building kind of environment that we're in.
Things right now are a little different, a little off from where they have been, but we're finishing out 2024, and there's a lot of positives on the horizon for 2025.
And we kind of jumped in. Let's back up. Tell people that don't know your career of basically building, 75% of the Providence neighborhood. You've built in most every big neighborhood out South Shreveport.
And some major commercial buildings too.
Yeah, tell about because what we love to talk about, and I think from this angle, is the changing of Shreveport, the developing. People always tell me Shreveport's moving backwards. Well, if I look at your career, that doesn't look like it's moved backwards at all over the last. How long have you been building houses?
Started building houses in 2004.
So we've got 20 years.
Yeah.
Are the same kind of houses you were building in 04 what you're building now?
No way. No, there's been a lot of change in the industry, and I think, with anything, it's easy to focus on the negatives, but I think there's a lot of really neat things and a lot of positives that Shreveport has to offer. And within the development community, there's a lot of really talented contractors and builders in our community, and Providence is a great example of, an idea that was birthed. That idea actually came out of Seaside. So if you're familiar with 30A and Seaside, you talk about an entrepreneurial jump out.
Right.
That was a huge one. But it's amazing the number of communities that have been birthed out of that one idea. And so when I really started studying what that was about, I kind of fell in love with Providence and that setup.
And you moved there. I mean, you were in the first 20, 30 homes in Providence?
Probably the first 30 residents or so, yeah.
I like when people dive in and they're like, I always say
that's all in.
Yeah,
okay. The brand, yeah.
I'm
always say I'm going to be a customer of my clients. That's a big time.
Yeah. I mean, people told me I was crazy when they're like, "You're going to live there too?" But no, it was great. I mean, I really believed in the lifestyle. We really wanted to live there because it's a special place, and there's many other ones in Shreveport Bossier too, but that one just happens to be one close to my heart. So
yeah, I think it's really cool.
How many homes are there now?
We're right about 400 homes in there now.
Okay, but you're doing a lot more in other places around town.
Well, we do a lot of our speculative homes in there, but we build houses, all over Shreveport Bossier. So if you have a lot or piece of land and you want us to build, we can do that as well.
Do you see a steady flow coming in of people saying, "Hey, I want to build right now"?
It was midway through 24. It was a little quiet, but over the last couple of months, a lot of setup for 2025.
Well, that is great news.
It is.
That's a positive economic indicator.
If you're selling houses or building houses in this environment, coming off of the huge boom and then the increased interest rates, I mean, it's not an easy time to sell high cost homes, I think, in the country. And I think you're seeing it everywhere. So I work closely with Justin, and I think the progress is better than it could be. And probably what we've talked about a lot, where Shreveport, when these big national things happen, Shreveport has some way of not taking them as hard most times.
That's right.
The housing crisis, I remember being at John Pickens during the big housing crisis, and there were these guys pulling up in these $100,000 trucks, walking in with $10,000 bottles of bourbon, and they were Haynesville Shell living it up. Like they had no housing crisis in their
100%.
world, you know? Like,
Yeah, I think the media on that, the national media in the bigger cities, that's the bigger fluctuation. And so people in Shreveport are still reading that media. And
Right.
so I feel like, our roller coaster ride is the kiddie ride from Hamels, if you remember Hamels, and these other cities, and I have friends that build in these other cities, their fluctuations are much greater. So from that standpoint, back to a positive for Shreveport, that's a positive one, know?
The other thing that I will say is I looked at a house that Judson had built. It was for sale by the previous owner or whatever in Providence in 2019. And that house, I remember it was $450,000. And it was between our house now and that house. And me and Kathleen went back and forth over it and ended up not doing it. And we wish we would have. But that same house for sale today would be probably $600,000.
Sure, yeah.
So through all this, through the interest rate, through the thing, the home values in Shreveport are moving up. That cannot be a bad thing. When everybody tells me everybody's moving out, I'm like, well, then why aren't houses getting cheaper?
I don't necessarily agree that everybody's moving out.
They're not.
Because
No,
there's too much construction in Shreveport and
right.
Bossier to say everybody's moving out. All right?
Same thing, I think, there about the media. You see, Dallas, these two cities, Dallas and Austin, they're so close to here, and they're growing like crazy.
Insane.
It's easy to look here, same thing, and be like, man, we're just dying on the vine. But we don't see it, we don't feel it. I think we're steady, and there's, I just went to the Economic Outlook down at the port. They hosted.
Dr. Lauren Scott.
Yeah, what a great presentation, and it was a great
2,200 more jobs this year coming into Shreveport Bossier. That
Right.
doesn't sound like an economic downturn to me.
No,
Okay?
and next year too. I mean,
And I'll
think
tell you,
2 years in a row.
we've had a lot of people coming into the BRF and look at, what do we have to offer to companies coming in here? And we just recruited Multi-Pack into the region. That's a new bottling company. And when their executives came in here, they were all either in Northern Virginia or California. And when they sold their houses, they came here and they bought twice as much house for half of what they were paying there.
And the guys living on Norton Art Gallery. Like on whatever, on Southfield right there. And the guy's like, what a steal.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah.
So,
and people don't realize that.
That's right.
And you can build more house today.
That's right.
In Shreveport, Bossier.
and the things they're building, I mean, I was in one yesterday, or a few yesterday, filming some for Justin. It's unbelievable what they're building. These homes are beautiful.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I think I'm always about, and I talk about it all the time, culturally or whatever, are we keeping up with other places in the country? I don't want somebody to get one of these jobs you're talking about, Dave, and move here and be like, who's building houses in Shreveport? These are garbage.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. I feel very confident that anyone walking in these homes that I'm seeing and these businesses would be blown away. And yes, some of them seem expensive to us that have lived in Shreveport forever.
Yeah.
But on a national standpoint, and we talk about this a lot, they're a still.
That's right.
And the things,
they can definitely compete with some of the high-end homes that are being built in Dallas right now.
Sure.
Oh, and they're probably half the price.
Yeah, clearly. Half the price.
The things that are happening. And this the other thing is you can live in Shreveport and have this crazy, awesome lifestyle, and you can be in Dallas in 2.5 hours if you want to go for a weekend.
Right.
We run around so much.
It's funny you say that about, we've had people move from all over. A lot of them coming to LSU Hospital, Willis Knighton, for physician, and it's amazing. They'll go through South Shreveport, go through Providence, and they're like, this is crazy. It would be twice this where they were coming from. And so, and I do feel like too, back to the kiddie ride at Hamels, I feel like our price point in our markets are similar. And so I feel like home ownership in Shreveport is a very safe investment.
I do too.
And you can get in places in the bigger markets where you end up buying high and you end up having to sell low.
Think about Dallas in the last 10 years. The hot spot 10 years ago is cold as ice right now.
That's right.
Because there's always a new hot spot.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
if you could go get in Frisco right now, that's awesome.
Right.
But there'll be a new Frisco in in our lifetime.
Yes.
We'll see 3 more Friscos.
I was going to say there's 2 or 3 being planned right now that we don't even know about.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
so you don't really have to fight that in Shreveport. And I think the other thing is on the real estate stuff is everybody talks these little bubbles. We talk South Shreveport a lot because we do a lot of work out there. But the magnifying glass always goes to the negative or these small areas. Benton, I mean, the things that are happening in Benton and North Bossier, and I mean, I drive through town and even South Highlands and the older neighborhoods, there's a lot of big houses in Shreveport.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody always tells me there's no money in Shreveport. Then who are living in all these houses?
Who's building these houses?
Again,
and you wouldn't go build houses, in the middle of what used to be a cotton field if there wasn't somebody willing to buy them.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's the thing for where we're building. We build where there's demand, right? So if there's a demand, center part of town, we'll try to address it. If it's North Shreveport, South Shreveport, Bossier City, I mean, we want to go.
But you guys do more than that. I mean, you could go into Highlands in an older home that hadn't been remodeled, and you can do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And turn that bad boy around in a minute.
Yeah, I just saw one. It was beautiful. People forget this, and I think it's important. I want to say it while we're all together. I'm only 42 years old. I remember being with my uncle and my cousins with a metal detector, finding arrowheads in the construction work on Southern Loop being cut through there. I was probably 15 years old, 12 years old. That's not been that long ago.
No.
And that was nothing. They were cutting the road through the middle of the woods.
That's right.
And now to see, I mean, Southern Trades was the only thing out there at that point.
That's right.
And now to see what's happened, people they forget how, I mean, this has happened relatively quickly if you see what's there. And you watched I always say it's like the dominoes falling. So the road was built. P&S Pantry got there. Now we got a gas station,
That's
maybe
right.
knock a domino.
That's right.
Then Providence got started, new domino. The grocery store, the Brookshire's out there that opened, the last few years, big domino. And you're just seeing these things. Now with the cultural stuff that's happening in Providence open to the public and the amount of restaurants, that's a huge domino. You're seeing it happen. And I was really happy. This week I was in a meeting and somebody said, man, are you hearing what's happening on Mansfield Road? I was like, what? And Mansfield Road's having a resurgence.
Yeah.
And so that's what winning sounds like to me in a community.
Well, like to your point earlier, you compare yourself to Dallas. That's big shoes to fill in a comparison.
It is.
Right? And so, but when you really peel that out and you look around, like you're saying, Mansfield Road, I could list 5 or 6 places that have these little pockets of growth. And so, I think there's a lot of positives.
So what's the next trend in home building? What?
Good question. Yeah. So there's a lot of AI is an interesting one that we're tracking. I'm on the National Home Builder. I'm a delegate, and so I get emails and correspondence, and so you see little wrinkles of it. So it'll be interesting to see how that makes its way in. That's probably the newest one. One that's been out also a little while is the printed homes. They print them with concrete.
Right.
And so that is there's actually a guy that graduated from Bird working for one of the companies down there, and they're doing whole neighborhoods out of 3D printed.
You can print a nice house?
I've seen that technology.
It's interesting that I don't
How
think
big is this printer?
Well, it's big. I mean, you got to set it up, and it's an expensive deal, but there's some cool technology around that. If they figure out, they're not. If you wouldn't plop that thing in Highland or South Highlands, it would stick out like a sore thumb. So there's some things that still need to be.
It's like the Tesla of houses.
Yeah,
it's gonna look like a Tesla truck of houses.
Great example. Yeah, that's a great example of what it is. But
you got to do the first one in Shreveport. Yeah. I'm always about the first one. Like, who's gonna do the first one? Who's gonna print the first house?
Yeah, I would love to do that. That would be good. it's interesting because we've always looked in our industry of how to be cutting edge. We've thought, off-site construction, and you ship houses in and all these things. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like art. There's still an element of craftsmanship and detail on the fly that goes into a home or a new building. And so to me, there's only so much you can do in a controlled warehouse or off-site. It just takes working with your hands. It takes craftsmanship to get those things done.
The art part, I always say every time I've bought a house, it's like I think last time I looked at 48 houses. This was right before the boom of COVID when we had a lot of houses listed. We looked at like 48 houses and I'd be like, yeah, that's a good house, but there's nothing I'm gonna be super excited about when I move in. Like what? So the art part that I think people overlook, like, oh, I need this many bedrooms, is what makes you pull the trigger on that house.
That's right.
The swimming pool or the cool outdoor patio is great.
For Jamie and I, it's the actual layout. Is this space okay?
Right.
What we're gonna use.
It's crazy what like 3,000 square foot how different a 3,000 square foot house can be.
Yes.
And that's one thing you do a ton in those Providence houses is they're not huge square footprints mostly, but they're so usable.
Right.
There's so much space.
And houses have changed so much for that. This open design, where you're actually utilizing your space.
That's right.
For us, that's what it's about, right? Because we don't need a dining room that nobody's going to go in.
Right.
My mom lived in for a long time a house that my great-grandparents built on Gilbert, and it had a huge living room, a huge formal living room, a huge dining room.
Probably tons of hallways.
Tons of halls.
Yeah, that's how you get your square footage up, for sure. You can
huge sunroom. I mean, it was like, how many people you gotta have over to hang out in all these rooms?
For me, it's always, well, how many big windows can we get in here so we can let natural light in?
Sure.
Yeah.
And things like that. I always gravitate to that.
Yeah.
That's what's fun, and that's what I think makes when you're looking at these homes and you start doing the square foot price deal. You can't do that when you're looking at an old house with a bunch of halls with a bunch of space you're not going to use against these houses that are like made to live in. I mean, I think it's so cool.
A couple things there. I mean, it's like buying a stock, right? If when you buy a house, you're buying a lot of people don't look at it as an investment, but I'm minded that way, and so I look at it as an investment.
For a lot of people, it's your biggest investment.
Yes, absolutely. And so,
look, I bought a house in Northern Virginia. Okay, I know how hard that is. Okay, and how expensive it is. Yeah. And I bought a house in Shreveport, Bossier. Okay, I know the difference. Okay, I like it here.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
You can get so much more for your money.
Dave's out in Plain dealing on a huge farm on the river is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I'm working him hard and I'm getting him closer I'm dragging him in.
Yeah, the one you got to sell is my wife, Jamie, but she's slowly getting there.
She's coming. If I get a few hours with her, Sevier,
she really scared me. She really scared me recently. She found a house on Cross Lake, and she said, "Let's go look at it." I went and looked at it, and I was like, "Oh Lord."
Yeah.
I said, if I had this lot and I could build the house I wanted, I'd have probably done it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay? But there was already a house there.
I'm trying to get Dave in.
The house went quick.
We'll get Jamie on the podcast, maybe, right?
Yeah.
We'll try to turn the tide.
That's right. Jamie, I need to get you in Shreveport. What do you need?
If you can get her, which I don't think will be that hard of a sell, okay, you win.
It's getting more and more fun out there. I mean, like, I have to say, like, last Saturday, I was helping with a farmer's market on a Saturday morning and just standing back and the music's on the stage and all the vendors are out there and people were walking in and out of Rhino Coffee and getting their donuts, their Southern made donuts, and then afterwards going to all the restaurants and eating brunch on the patio. That is the lifestyle and the culture. We get so much caught up in the culture of events, but that's the real culture that when you travel to these cities and you walk through these areas, and
that's what sells Shreveport.
I'm so happy about it. I'm so thankful for you being a huge part of developing that. Thank you for me.
We love it, and I mean, on the commercial side, Same application. I feel like we've been able to really find a niche there, taking our same approach and the hands-on and the creating as we go. And we just finished that graft orthodontic and pediatric dentistry building up in North Bossier. That was a great project. And so
Is that on Kings?
it's on Airline
Yep.
up north of 220. And that
Knowing
was
both
a real,
of them and you, I can't wait to walk through it. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Yeah,
it's going to be
it's
something.
a special place. And but our group is we're project managers, but everyone's got they get excited about having a vision, and really
Yeah.
adopting that. And so we love what we do. We
Well,
love
man,
Shreveport.
keep
Justin,
fighting for
thanks
Shreveport.
for coming.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thank
You're
you.
building great things, and I'm convinced people are coming.
I agree with
People
you.
are coming.
I
People are
agree
coming.
100%.
Enjoy the podcast? We would love your feedback about today's show and who you think should be our next guest. Send us an email at info@eapla.com. Also, be sure to share the show and leave a comment on our social media post.